How did you get involved with this SSP?
Prior to being born, my soul contract was to come to Earth, work with the SSP in physical form. But prior to coming to Earth, I had to be born, so I incarnated. Part of my soul contract was with them, so that when I was 2 years old, they actually took me and age advanced me.
What the hell is consciousness removal for an ordinary human being?
Basically, it's going into the pineal gland of the brain with a tool, and you can disrupt that energy and remove that energy from the brain and basically put it in digital cryo storage or place it in another body.
Now you wake up and what? Like, how do you have the consciousness of a 25 years person?
When they understand how to reach the energy soul being that we are within this body, they can access records from my past, from past lives, from past experiences. And they pull some of those through, the ones that they wanted to use and that would benefit me and stabilize me. And part of that was me remembering I had agreed to do this.
Where does the design for the device come from?
Well, this is the one I built now. So you have a magnetic force that comes from one side, comes around and goes up the other side and then around the ring. This is much more based on the human body just for healing and on that vibrational level.
I have seen that this recurring theme of fields and crystal shapes.
In fact, it's kind of shocking how simple some of the other technologies are compared to our own. I've seen engines that were just basically large crystals, anti-gravity ships, for example. Some ships have crystals growing literally within them because they use the energy of those crystals. It's a big technology, and a lot of them use it for information storage and for energy storage as well.
Hello, everybody. Today I'm with a very interesting guest who is going to talk about an unbelievable life experience. Today is an entrepreneur and is working on a medical device that is based on a technology that has been given to him by friends, let's call it this way, friends from another planet. But yesterday, he worked in one of these secret military projects. So with me today, we have Chris O'Connor. Hi, Chris, how are you today?
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure having you here. So there would be many ways that we could go about this. And one way, which is kind of my way, is to, before we go into the real interview, start asking you a number of very quick questions so that our audience can quickly find out about yourself. So first question is, have you ever been in the military? Have you served in the military?
This physical body, no.
Have you in some form or shape served in the military?
I was in the secret space program. That was a different body, but yes.
Okay, so that makes it very clear to people. What branch of the military did you serve in?
I can't answer with specificity. I can say I worked with the US Navy, the Air Force, and the United Nations.
Do you remember your first job? What was it about?
Well, the very first, what I would consider a job would be in memory removal, consciousness removal and storage, and memory wiping.
What the hell in the world is consciousness removal for an ordinary human being?
Basically, it's going into the pineal gland of the brain with a tool that can disrupt the connection there's piezoelectric energy based in that region, and you can disrupt that energy and remove that energy from the brain and basically put it in what you would consider digital cryo storage or place it in another body.
So the consciousness is a physical entity.
It is a physical energy entity.
What is memory removal?
It's basically very much the same. It's the same procedure, just different vibration, and the technology used can be programmed. Because it has to be programmed for every person because every person is slightly different. And they can remove both the consciousness and the memory at the same time, or they can go in and they can target memory and remove that.
Did you work alone or you work with other colleagues on this particular task?
I did work with others.
Where did you do this job? On planet Earth or somewhere else?
Well, I don't remember exactly. That's part of what I haven't recalled. If it was Earth-based, moon-based, a stellar ship base or another planet within our solar system. I feel like it was several of those, but I don't have an exact memory of what location.
Why the memory must be removed?
This program started in the 40s and it was incredibly secret. And they were just really coming into technology from ETs, from other races that would come in and they would trade technologies. And they didn't want that information out because they wanted to establish the technology. And that kind of turned into a huge control mechanism. And then once it started, it snowballed. And they just, at this point in time, they're having a difficult time getting out of it.
So if the memory is removed, why do you have memories?
Well, it's not 100% effective all the time. You know, they've wiped the memories of thousands of people, but there's a 4 or 5% that begin to recover those memories. I was determined to remember them. I was in the program for 60 years, and I always talked about, I'm going to remember this. You know, I challenged my superiors and they're like, you're never going to remember this, you know, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to remember it, you know, and I think part of that is it as well, because you've determined to remember something, but also some of the races that I worked with, some of the extraterrestrial races actually placed little triggers in my brain secretly so that I would remember at times, you know, like,
are we the only ones that do this?
Well, there's so many different races and so many different opinions and social groups that you get both sides of the aisle. Most of them don't agree with all of the people of Earth not knowing everything. They don't really like it.
So you were able to recover some memory. What did you do with these memories? Because you had the purpose. What did you do with these memories?
I was determined to help bring, you know, consciousness to people, help evolve humanity, and let people know and be part of a disclosure. That was kind of my whole job. And
this device that you remember from that you're building, can you briefly say what that is?
Yeah, it's fashioned after the device that we would use to remove consciousness and remove memory, but it's nothing nearly as powerful, and it's not built in the same way, although it works with energy in a very similar way. And when you begin to understand that the human body is an energy being within a physical photonic form compressed, which is the physical form we believe is physical.
Design for this device is something that were other humans that gave you in the SSP, or was somebody else, some other intelligence that gave you? Who gave you the design, or it's yourself? Like, where does the design for the device come from?
Well, the design of it was originally in the SSP because that's how they used it. I've changed it slightly to make it more gentle and used for healing versus used for energy memory, extraction.
In the interaction with this ET, do we have diplomatic relationships with them?
We do, with many races.
How many civilizations have you been in contact with?
I don't remember the exact number, but it's hundreds.
How old are you in total?
To quickly blow everybody's mind, I'm literally still in the SSP, not this body, but my currently existing body off planet. So that individual lived 60 years in the SSP. I've lived just over 50 here on Earth.
You are under 10 years. People be completely blown up. If you had the chance, would you go back to the SSP?
I would, but I think I may want conditions involved in that. I mean, it would be for disclosure.
We will discuss above top secret technological developments at the first Silicon Valley Conference on Secret Space Technology Business Applications. Experiencees and witnesses of advanced technologies will present how they have interacted with innovations and discoveries far beyond our current reality, but one day possibly becoming our reality. In this conference, we will discuss the futuristic civilian applications of these technologies to our economy. It is about time that we start challenging our current beliefs and limitations and start to envision a more advanced civilization for us and our children. One day, we may be using some of these secret space technologies to build viable civilian business applications.
How how did you in the world got involved with this SSP? I mean, you doing your life and then what?
Prior to being born, my sole contract was to come to Earth, work with the SSP in physical form. But prior to coming to Earth, I had to be born. So I incarnated. Part of my soul contract was with them, so that when I was 2 years old, they actually took me and age advanced me.
So
Yes.
you had a mom and a father, and your
Yeah.
mom and your father cared about you. So how did they took physically the baby?
Well, I was only gone for a couple of seconds because they brought me back through their technology in time and brought me back as a 2-year-old once again.
So your family never knew.
They never knew I was gone.
And you have a contract with the SSP, or you have a contract with your original, or say,
Well, the soul contract is always with your soul family, and that's a different race other than human. But we had an agreement that this was part of the job I was to do, was to help with disclosure. So that was part of my journey.
this is really something of a complication in the complication, because it seems these people work together even if they have different agendas. Like, help us understand this.
We use SSP as a catch-all phrase. There are a lot of different entity organizations within that, what we call the secret space program. And they're not all good, they're not all bad. I think I worked with both of them, really. But for the most part, it was a very positive group that were trying to kind of repair some of the problems that the negative groups were doing. And we had to work with other races in negotiation, and for resources on other planets and for setting up colonies on other planets, and some of the negative SSP aspects, we didn't work on the same page. And they would go and conquer, and we would go and negotiate.
I would like to go back for a second to this aging aspect. At this point, you are a toddler, 2 years old.
Yes.
But within a few weeks, you get transformed into a 25 years old man.
Right.
How does that happen?
It was a terrifying scenario. Basically, at 2, they placed me in a tube with this gel, which is highly oxygenated, and it was built from my personal DNA. And then they put in large needles, so I'm in this acrylic tube, and the needles going in, into my bones, into certain areas, certain organs. And that same gel would flow through those. And that gel was a highly concentrated, sort of pinkish purple gel. And it was like a biogel, and it caused rapid growth.
But during this process of growth, are you conscious?
Some people they take out, they remove consciousness, remove their memory, and they store it during this process. Other people, they don't, and they did not with me, because it's more stable if they don't remove it, and they just advance the body. And so it's never taken away. So they did that with me because the plans they had with me were to work with other races and work on a telepathic level, and that would be a more stable connection if they didn't remove it.
Who is doing this? Are humans or ETs that have the capability to do this? I mean, it's a equipe of scientists. Who are these people? Where are they trained?
Well, I don't know about where they're trained, but I mean, they have bases all over Earth, and they have them in the orbit of Earth. They have them on other planets within our solar system, other planets in other solar systems. They're everywhere, and so it's just part of the negotiation, that the US government, as well as other governments, but the US government was primary. And they negotiated and allowed a lot of this research to go on within the planet, on the planet here on Earth, and by doing that, then they would work together with these other programs and then basically trade technology.
So you are 2 years old. Mm-hmm. You are grown up physiologically to 25 years. In how much time?
I think it's probably like 4 weeks.
Now you wake up, and what? Like, how do you have the consciousness of a 25 years person?
When they understand how to reach the energy soul being that we are within this body, they can access records from my past, from past lives, from past experiences. And they pull some of those through, the ones that they wanted to use and that would benefit me and stabilize me. And part of that was me remembering I had agreed to do this. And so I understood at that point, because some of those memories were pulled through. So I was very mature because I've lived many lives. And so they use that, well, because, we just forget when we're on Earth, when we're in this physical form, we forget those other lives, but they can access those memories and they bring them through.
So what was your life like in the immediate aftermath of this growth? Like you get out of this tube and what happens? You talk to somebody, like what do you do? How do you live the first week?
I don't remember the first week, the first maybe few weeks. I'm not exactly sure. But basically, I just start going into training and they go through psychological support systems, and just basically talk you through it and help you recall the memories because they've unlocked them and help you try to make sense of these things. So that takes several weeks.
Do you have any recollection why you might have decided to kind of transmute to human beings?
Well, because you have to understand that what happens when planetary races evolve, most of them have no idea there's anything outside of their planet and they freak out, in that transition. But then there are malevolent and benevolent races. Malevolent races want to come in and affect change within that transitional period. And we're in the middle of this transition from third to fourth density or new Earth kind of transition. And if these malevolent forces can come in, then if they conquer us in some form or fashion, then we're basically enslaved by them. So then you have benevolent forces come in because the universe is all about perfect balance. So if malevolent forces come in and affect a society, then benevolent forces can come in and counterbalance it and offer information in a positive way and giving that race a choice of a direction to go.
I understand, but you still wanted to do it. So
yes.
Do you remember or have a perception or an intuition of what type of moral values made you make this choice? What type of person you have been in that planet, let's say in that civilization?
My race and the races I've associated with are highly benevolent, and we find it to be our duty to assist races that have had negative effect. And it's an honor for us because it happened for us. And so we pay it forward.
We will discuss the advanced top secret technological developments at the first Silicon Valley Conference on Secret Space Technologies Business Applications. Experiencees and witnesses of advanced technology will present how they have interacted with innovations and discoveries far beyond our current reality, but that may one day become our reality. In this conference, we will discuss the futuristic civilian applications of these technologies to our economy. It is about time that we start challenging our current beliefs and limitations and start to envision a more advanced civilization for us and our children. One day, we may be using some of these secret space technologies to build viable civilian business applications.
So let's go back for a second to your work, day by day work. Can you kind of walk us, to the extent that you remember, on a day in the life of your work?
Well, for the most part, all of those programs and especially the science-based stuff were highly segmented, and so I didn't see very many people at all throughout the day. And if I had to go from one place to another, I was escorted through very bland, boring hallways. I had a room that was just basically nothing, a little tiny room that I stayed in, and then they would transport me if they needed to.
Who are they? When you say they would transport me, they would escort me, who is it?
It would be either the Air Force, the Navy, or the United Nations, because I worked with all three.
This is how your day would go. But if we look at your job, like describe a typical session.
Especially in the beginning, there was no good or bad. There was just a lot of training, a lot of me understanding how to communicate on a telepathic level, because other races, most races, in fact, when they work with humans, they have to learn how to communicate with us. And so we have to learn how to communicate with them as well. And so that was a big part of my job, was learning the different types of communication, whether it was telepathic or telepathic verbal, vocal, or combination of both. If it was just telepathic with images, colors, emotions, or, and that takes a long time to learn. And that was a big part of what I did, was to learn a lot of these techniques, and then also work with machines to do extraction of memories and consciousness.
But how do you have a recollection how this machine work? How big they are? Are they tubes? What are they?
Imagine a small white room with stainless steel table, almost looks a bit like a morgue, and then it's a little small cart, with a device on it. And this is the device similar to what they would use, but theirs often had a blue stone here in a pyramidal shape. And so if somebody came in, there was a button on the back, and they would just put it to your temple because it was pre-programmed, because they knew he was coming and what to do. And they would just put it to your temple and push the button, and that would usually take them out. And then once that they went out, we'd lay them down on the table. Then we programmed, because it was computer on the cart, we would program what type of memory wipe, how deep to go, and all of that.
So you would do that on the computer, and then you put the memory back.
Or extract it or take it, or, if it was a consciousness removal. Sometimes I worked with a couple of people that were injured, that we had to take consciousness out, to save the consciousness, so that their body, obviously wasn't going to make it at that point for whatever reason.
In the science that we have here on planet Earth, most of medicine is based on chemistry, like we give some pills, or surgery. We cut something and we repair it. This alien reproduction technology seems completely based on a completely different philosophy. Mm-hmm. And it seems it's based on some kind of interaction with magnetic and electric fields. Do you understand what is the difference? Why this works?
Well, because the human body, like everything that we perceive as being solid, is actually photonic. All things are photons. Photons are vibration. And once you build from there, you can affect the physical form, you can affect the electrical form, because it's all related. It's very, very similar energy. It's just a matter of knowing how to connect on that level.
So my question would be, do you have any visibility on how these other civilizations approach this level of knowledge?
It's very cyclical. Some of them are billions of years old, some other races. And so they've had that long to work on these things. We're incredibly young as a race, and we're what they refer to as a third density race, which is just basically out of all being animals, with that consciousness of, base beast mentality. We're just barely beyond that.
When and how did you generate it, or did you start to generate ideas to apply this memory suppression technology to different medical practices?
I thought it was a download of information when I was in meditation over a year ago now, but it turns out that really what it was a memory that was unlocked. And as soon as that memory was unlocked, I remembered about the device, and I remembered how it worked, and remembered what it could do for humanity, and that began my mission to build it.
But the instrument that you had, it was for transferring consciousness and suppress memory.
Right.
So how did you go from that to say, but this technology, I can use it differently? Like, how did you walk the process?
Because it's all based, as I said, on vibration and energy. Our energetic body, our nervous system is electrical impulses. Electrical impulses affect gravity. Gravity affects electrical impulses. And magnetism affects it all as well. And so when you understand the technology based on what our consciousness is, what our electrical body is, what our nervous system is, and then what our physical body is, you understand how they interact and how you can use electricity and magnetism to actually affect change within the body. So it's really difficult at this point to separate science and spirituality, because they're really one at this point.
Very often these two things seems together. For us, spirituality and science, they're very different. They're almost one orthogonal to the other. There is a lot of debate around this. There are people that really study this, why there is so. But it seems for these ETs, the dimension of spirituality and the science, they merge together.
They're one.
They're one.
Part of what we need to learn now. That's where we're at in our human race, human society, is learning that science and spirituality is the same. They approach it at two different directions. And once it comes together, that's when all the what looks like miracles happen, but really it's still science.
What does your device looks like? And what is in common and what is different?
Well, this is the one I build now. Well, I never built the others, but this is the one I build. It's 14 neodymium magnets. In here, they're block magnets, and then a disc magnet. So you have a magnetic force that comes from one side, comes around and goes up the other side, and then around the ring. And it does that continuously. And it never stops doing that. That's just part of it. That's how it's created to do this magnetic field. So as the magnetism comes up and down throughout the device, this one's pushing it out. And so you have a magnetic field coming around and being pushed out at the same time, which creates a bit of a vortex. And it's that vortex of energy that, basically we use and used in the SSP. And that kind of, if you put it to your head, that vortex is basically penetrating your physical body, and this one won't affect your pineal gland, won't do anything near what the SSP version does. This is much more based on the human body just for healing and on that vibrational level.
So there is a version of the device that works with some particular crystals. Can you talk about that? What crystals are and what is the role of the crystals?
Well, because this is a vortex, like if I held it this direction, it would look like a little tornado right here. It pushes energy through and into wherever area you're placing it. And if you put a crystal on the top of it, depending on the crystal, that crystal is, it's a crystalline form, crystalline structure, and this energy flows through those crystalline structures. And depending on which crystal you use on the crystalline structure, and that changes the vibration of the energy, which is a combination of magnetic and piezoelectric energy coming in this vortex. It takes that and you filter it through that crystal, and you can target it to certain parts of the body associated with that vibration.
What is the material the crystals are made?
They're actually natural crystals, natural grown. Some of them are, sedimentary based crystals. Some of them are actually like quartz and, amethyst and just any kind,
Do they have a specific geometry?
I use pyramidal shaped crystals. People that practice Reiki and acupressure, acupuncture, they work with the meridians of the body, and the meridians are based on vibration within the nervous system. And so they can target certain areas based on that filtered crystal. So I use a pyramidal shape, because this is a vortex, and then you're, using a pyramidal shape, and you're basically condensing it down, not to like a laser, but like a candle flame. So you're taking all that energy and bringing it to a point, and it's more targeted that way. That's the purpose of the shape.
But I've seen that there are different color of crystals. What is the role of those different colors?
It depends on the body, and it works with the chakra system, because if you have certain chakras in your body, there's certain vibrational areas within your body, and certain crystals associate the same vibration. And so that's the purpose of them, is if you're doing energy healing or energy work, or if you're doing physical body healing and you want to target a certain area that's associated with that vibration.
I have seen that this recurring theme of fields and crystal shapes is a recurring theme from these alien reproduction technologies. Is it something that you have seen as well? These more advanced technologies, they make use of these principles?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, it's kind of shocking how simple some of the other technologies are compared to our own. I've seen engines that were just basically large crystals, anti-gravity ships, for example. They use crystals for that. They use some ships have crystals growing literally within them because they use the energy of those crystals. It's a big technology, and a lot of them use it for information storage and for energy storage as well.
Okay, so I want to go back to your device. Who is using it today?
They're everything from just mostly normal folks that have an understanding of energy work. Some people get it simply for pain relief. I have 2-3 veterinarians that I'm aware of that use it on the dogs and cats, their clients' pets. I'm a cancer survivor. I used it for that. I had severe back injuries, spinal reconstruction. So I'm very familiar with severe pain, and I use it for that as well, just for pain relief.
Like, where do you manufacture things? Can you tell us a little bit about the process of building it? Do you have a factory?
I literally hand build each one. I have a shop here in connection to my home right now, and I handcraft every single one.
I would like to return to the SSP experience. What is your biggest learning?
The secret of life is so simple. It's living in love and gratitude and appreciation. That vibration is a very high vibration. And that vibration can do everything from manifest to you and heal your physical body. Learn to have an open mind, and understand that science and spirituality need to come together in a more common ground, because that every single advanced race understands that, and there's no separation between the two.
So one way that we human beings learn things is if we see somebody else doing it. If these programs are always kept secret and we never are in touch with these other intelligences, or at least we see them, how we can kind of accelerate our process of understanding these things if we have no example?
It's not for the best interest of all of humanity. There are a lot of interests based on nations and factions within those nations. And that was part of my job later on, was negotiating that and navigating that in a way. And a lot of the races I worked with want all of humanity to know that they exist.
All right. So there is something, though, that I wanted to explore, and it's the personal dimension of interacting with beings from another planet. Is there anybody that you really miss?
Yeah, I had a friend that was Arcturian, and his name was Jig Dim. What I remember now, I didn't know then, was that we're part of the same soul family, but he was actually assigned to me by the Arcturians. And so we worked together very closely. He was very instrumental in me remembering a lot.
Would you trust him completely?
Yes, more so than probably any other human.
It's because you have been with him a longer time, or because you know that he has less impulse to greed or corruptions that we usually have?
Yeah, he has no impulses. The Arcturian race have no impulse of greed or of taking advantage. They're truly benevolent, because it's just part of, you pay it forward, you're assisted, because they know that one race affects the entire universe and the repercussions of that. So, the Earth has had a lot of negative entities, negative races here affecting us, between everything from DNA to killing millions of us at times throughout our history. And they step in, when it's an outside source affecting humanity, they'll step in. But if we're affecting ourselves, like we go explode a bomb, they don't step into that because it's a human condition, something we created ourselves. But otherwise, because they understand the oneness of the universe and how we are all highly connected on an energy level. And so if we're over here suffering, or if we're over here enslaved, that affects them on an energy level. And so it's their honor and duty to come here and assist in the way that they can.
What's the history or the evolution, if you remember? Have you ever had like the opportunity to talk to him about their life, their civilization?
Yeah, they're millions of years old, their civilization. And they're all over multiple galaxies. And in fact, they're also interdimensional.
Do they have something like we have? Do they have commerce?
They're much more of a metropolis type of attitude, where all people have a base of equality. Everybody has a home, everybody has food, everybody has their needs taken care of health-wise. Everybody's equal. And then, other individuals can step outside of that with, other different, jobs that you would have. They don't get paid. If you go and you assist other planets and other races, or if you're in, some of them have militaries, if you're in the military, then you have maybe a better house than others, or if you have a bigger family, you have a bigger house, because what we have to understand is we base our difficulty understanding that an entire race can get along based on the fact that we've never gotten along. We're fighting each other for food, space, land, oil, whatever. We've never gotten along. So we don't have that concept of everybody loving one another. They may have conflicts, but they still love it. It's like a family.
But at the same time, it seems that we derive somehow some shape. We're not too different from other races, at least from the way we look. And so what it is, where these other races like us, or there's something specific about us?
What makes us different than most of them is that because of our interaction for literally millions of years on Earth with other races, first, a lot of negative races here, doing genetic experiments on primates, basically came to Earth and we're doing genetic experimentation. So we're the result of 20 separate races. And then there's the male and female genome, which really goes, you can count them as two. So it's a 22 separate races that they combined over a period of time. We're the end result of that. And because of that, it makes us very powerful energetically that we just don't remember, because that's part of what they did, was put triggers in our brain for us to forget that we're powerful entities, like whether it's telekinesis or whatever, or mind reading or telepathy. We can do all of those things easily. We just forgotten about it. And so it makes us a target, because then that if you can conquer a powerful race that doesn't even know they're powerful, you can use them for whatever you want to use them for.
Again, Chris, I wanted to thank you for taking the time. It was an incredible episode.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here. Anything I can do to help.